13. I'm here with Melanie Miller of Gravitas, and thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Now, you are coming right off the panel. We just spoke to John Sloss just a little while ago about the VOD, blessing or curse, and I love that panel because it gives me the first question right out there. VOD, blessing, curse. I mean, is there an answer to that question? Maybe is the best question.
It depends on the type of film, but I personally think it's a blessing, especially for the independent marketplace. The company that I work for, Gravitas Ventures, started out in 2006. That was hyper-focused in VOD. Mm-hmm. And we transitioned into more of an all-rights buyer about 2.5, 3 years ago. We put out close to 500 movies a year.
Wow.
Yeah. But I would say, about 20 to 24 of those are more high-profile, where they have a pre-theatrical or a day-and-date release model. Mm-hmm. But we have direct deals with 100-plus cable operators between the U.S. and Canada. We work directly with iTunes. We work directly with Vudu. Pretty much every transactional platform you can think of. We also work with all the subscription windows, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, which is ad-supported. Right. They also have Hulu Plus, which is subscription. Mm-hmm. We do theatricals now. We actually have a film that just came out this past Friday called Ping Pong Summer.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we'll be on the lookout for it.
It's...
Yeah. So what sort of movie, for what sort of film does VOD make sense? Or for what sort of movie might it not make as much sense?
It's so funny. It depends where in the VOD space.
Break it down for us, please.
Yeah,
I think
sure.
A lot of people think VOD is just this monolithic thing, when of course it's not.
Well, cable video on demand subscribers are very different from potentially the online subscribers, be it people who may or may not have the cord, or they've cut the cord, or the millennials who've never had a cord to have cable. So cable definitely skews a little bit on the older side. Myself, I'm in my 40s. I will probably always have DirecTV just because of the sports packages that are involved. But I also, because of the arena that I work within in the VOD space, I also have an Apple TV. I also have an Amazon Prime account. So there's so many different ways in which you can consume content now. So, you could have an Xbox or a Sony PlayStation and rent a movie now. It's just a matter of kind of just determining what works within each space. And by each space, I mean within the VOD space itself. So sometimes you're able to cover all of those as well. So, like I said, we have a film that just came out this past Friday called Ping Pong Summer. We took that out in, I think, about 15 markets opening weekend. It's not only in theaters, but it's also available on numerous cable operators. It's also available on iTunes. You could probably have someone go on iTunes right now and you would see it very well positioned in the carousel up top on the independent section as well as the comedy section.
All right. Hey, Matt, if you want to go on iTunes right now and find us some Ping Pong Summer, we can make this it's the live stream challenge. So talk about a little bit about the session that you just sat on. What sort of questions are people asking about the VOD space, and what's got them excited and what's got them scared about VOD? Because it's still very new to a lot of people.
Yeah, it's very new. It's very much the wild, wild west. It's very much, there's a shift happening within the industry, and so, a lot of it is trying to understand what is feasible and what is not. I think the big takeaway from this was, learning to adapt to this new arena of how the film gets out into the place, because, the studios are going to continue to release big budget films, but at the same time, a lot of people can now create a movie for next to nothing, and it's how do they get it out into the space? And so I think that VOD, that's why I consider it a blessing for so many filmmakers, because there are so many avenues in which to get it out there. It's just understanding all of the windows in which to be able to do it. And I think that was a big takeaway from today's panel, was understanding all the various windows in which your film can get out there between the theatrical and how the transactional affects various other, potential licensing fees for your subscription window. And,
right.
One thing that wasn't touched on in the panel, but something people should be aware of, is that day and date does affect certain foreign territories. Kathy touched on it briefly, but France, for example, if you do a day and date in the States, you won't get a broadcast deal in France.
Really?
Yes.
and is that just the nature of the French media regulations?
It has to do with the way that their broadcast rules are. So, it's something to keep in mind if you have a very well-known French actor in your movie that's independent.
Right.
You should, reconsider the possibility of doing a day and date before you do it.
Right.
So
I mean, now I remember we're talking 5, 6 years ago that day and date first started to become a viable thing, and everybody was almost like a radio. Nobody wanted to be the first. I mean, Steven Soderbergh kind of popped the bubble for us. With Bubble, yes. I think that's how I was going to that metaphor. But oh boy, somebody stop me. But today it's a different thing. I mean, it's a more common. Where have we got to in terms of day and date from the trepidatious days of 5-6 years ago to today? How are people embracing that strategy?
I think that a lot of the filmmakers are truly starting to embrace it. I mean, to kind of give you a broad scope of people of note that have embraced it. I mean, we released Dave Grohl's Sound City last year. We released it within a week of its Sundance premiere.
Wow.
We had started working with him several months out. We rolled the dice, as did he and his team, in hopes of getting into Sundance. We were lucky enough that they accepted it. But be able to draft off all of that press from Sundance and take it out a week later. And not only did we take it out in the U.S. and Canada, but we took it out worldwide. So, that film has done exceptionally well, got great reviews, but it helps to have someone like Dave Grohl pounding the pavement for your film. To kind of go back to a film that we have that's out right now again, Ping Pong Summer, Susan Sarandon is in that movie, as is Leah Thompson.
Right.
They both have been extremely supportive. Susan Sarandon got involved with the project pretty early on. She's actually an executive producer. She owns a few spin facilities, which are actually ping pong places. They're nightclubs, but they're also like you can go and play ping pong.
I am learning more in this particular day than I learned all weekend.
So she has a place in New York. There's one in part of the Standard Hotel downtown, and so we actually were able to get her on the Today Show to play ping pong with Kathy Lee and Hoda. And
who won? Tell me it was Susan.
I don't think they actually ever divulged that. But Leah went on as well, and so having people of note to support the film in a traditional manner.
Right.
But then also one of the things I mentioned in the panel was thinking outside the box as well. And because the film takes place in Ocean City, Maryland in 1995, and it's a love letter really to that area, and that's where the director spent every summer.
Right.
We were approached between his team, our PR firm, Gravitas, etc. We were approached by the Orioles, and he threw out the first pitch yesterday. So that's nice. Totally different. Has nothing to do with ping pong.
Yeah,
it's a totally different audience. But there was that sports element to it, and it was. I mean, he got it over the plate, which was great.
Hey, we talked a little bit with John about social media and how the importance of social media when so much of VOD is a kind of can make it up as you go along, do it yourself. I mean, when you talk about operating outside the box. At this point, the box does necessarily kind of include social media. It seems to be such an essential component of that. How do you approach a marketing campaign and finding that audience for your film that you just have a sense is out there?
As early as possible. I mean, I touched on briefly on the panel where, Veronica Mars, that was a day and date release.
Right.
They funded that movie primarily through Kickstarter. So they had a built-in fan base already from the television series. They tapped into that fan base to raise the money to actually make the movie. And then they had that entire fan base to feed information to leading up to the release of it. I mean, that's the ultimate scenario.
Right.
So utilizing crowdfunding to build an audience. I feel that documentarians have a really true understanding of how to do that just because they've had to bootstrap it for so long in terms of aligning themselves with organizations and NGOs, etc. And now narrative filmmakers are starting to do that too. Like we put out a movie a little over a year ago called The Story of Luke. And one of the lead characters had a form of Asperger's or autism, never really told in the project, but the director and his producers were smart enough to align themselves with Autism Speaks and a variety of other places. So when it was time for us to release the movie, they were blogging about it. They, spoke at the premiere for the film. That film just continues to be requested to play in a theater for like a one-night event over a year later. Oh yeah, we finally put it up into what's called TUG. It's an on-demand theatrical apparatus for independent filmmakers. Have you ever heard of this?
Completely unfamiliar with it.
So it's called TUGG, TUG, and it was created
Does
by.
that stand for something? Is that just an adorable name?
It's just an adorable
All
name.
right,
Like,
then.
tug it into your
Okay.
marketplace.
Anyway, so I want to thank you for being a part of this. Thanks for being a part of the conference. Is this your first time at the conference, or
No, I've actually been a member of the PGA for about 5 years. So
and have you come to the
I've
conference
come
every year? Or?
every year except one.
Oh well,
Yes.
We'll let you off then.
Thank you.
But now, is this your first time on a panel, or have
Yes.
you well,
First time for a panel for here.
Well, for a good distinction to be made.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations. It's great to have you. It's always wonderful to have our members filling out our panels. It's a great thing the Guild does, and great that the members can be such an integral part
No,
of
I'm
it.
happy to do it. I've already told Madeline I'd love to come back. So.
All right. Well, we'd love to have you back. Melanie, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.